But first to a guy who's been front and center in some of the biggest battles on the U.S. House floor so far this year: healthcare, internet privacy laws, and possibly soon, action in Syria. Congressman Michael Capuano joins me now. Congressman, good to see you.
Nice to see you, Jim.
There is decent bipartisan support for this action in Syria. I'm not clear. Are you part of that bipartisan support or no?
Not yet. I don't like unscrambling the egg. It's done. It shouldn't have been done the way it was, but it's done. There was reasonable reason to do it. I'm less worried about what happened yesterday than I am what happens tomorrow. What is our policy? How many more times are we going to do this? What's our policy outside of Syria?
What does it mean when you said I didn't like the way it was done? What does that mean? Without congressional approval?
Yeah, without congressional
approval. Will there ever be congressional approval on any action, warlike action?
Well, there was. I mean, there was in Iraq, and President Obama did. A while ago, and they use it for everything now. But at least it was there. And President Obama did not bomb Syria the last time because he couldn't get it. So the answer is, yeah, it does have a say in the place.
Well, but in all fairness, the reason he went to Congress is because he had drawn the red line, and then his bluff was called, and he went to Congress more to stall than to get permission. Would you not agree?
I do agree, but nonetheless, that's the case.
Speaking of, I know you're in the House, not the Senate, but Gorsuch, your Democratic colleagues, it seems to me, rolled the dice on this thing and ultimately lost the filibuster on a seat where a conservative is replacing a conservative. Did they make the right move?
It's hard to tell. I mean, I have the same questions you do. I mean, it's done, and I'm not there, so I don't like to second guess. But I have the same concerns. But it is done, and I think you're 100% right that my real concern is the next seat. And again, if Thomas leaves and they replace him, it's not good. But it won't be that bad. This is Scalia's seat. He was never on the same page as me anyway. But
Breyer, Bader Ginsburg, maybe Kennedy, the swing vote.
Those become more problematic.
You sit on the, I don't know what it's called, transportation infrastructure something. Is that close enough? Okay.
Close enough.
You deserve a decent amount of praise for this Green Line extension thing, which got yet another approval, which I assume is pretty close to the final deal. Yes?
Yeah, 2 more.
Okay. Last year or the year before, Congress practically had an orgasmic celebration over this infrastructure authorization, but the money wasn't there for the whole thing. Is that right? Donald Trump, it seems to me, is moving right up your alley. If he really comes up with this $1 trillion and it's real, is it real?
Not yet.
What does that mean?
It means it depends how he does it. The spending part of it's easy. Everybody agrees $1 trillion is just a beginning. We haven't done enough to catch up. At the same time, it is exactly where do you get the money? And if the money comes out of school lunch programs, he loses my vote. If the money comes out of increased taxes somewhere, he probably could get my vote. If it comes out of debt, we'll have to talk about that.
What if it comes out of incentives for the private sector?
It depends what it is. A tax credit, if that's what he's talking about, is really just another way to spend money. And if the tax credit goes all to the wealthiest people in the world so they can own a road that taxpayers have effectively paid for, he won't be getting my vote.
Or if it goes to a company that was likely to do what they're being rewarded for doing anyway, correct?
Exactly. And so it's not the spending side. That's the easy part of it. It's the how do you get the revenue?
Are you gambling? Well, I'll ask you whether you're gambling or not. What do you think are the odds that your colleagues, majority Republican, are ever going to vote for to find $1 trillion anywhere?
Right now, well, there's a couple of things they could do that would be easy.
Like what?
Mostly repatriation. It's money
what does that mean?
That's the money that's offshore because our tax policy has encouraged companies to leave trillions of dollars offshore.
But that means taking on their big business friends. Would they do that?
Well, not necessarily, because a lot of those companies want to bring it back, but they want to bring it back at a reduced tax rate. So for the sake of discussion, if they brought it back now, it would be a 35% tax rate. If we did a 5% tax rate, they would bring it back. Now, the question is, what do we do with that money? And that's exactly the kind of money I think we could find bipartisan support to use.
You're doing a project, you and your staff, which I think is terrific. It's called Behind the Curtain. Just give us the concept, if you can.
The concept is that a lot of the things that are going to happen to America under the Trump administration, the Republican administration in the House and Senate, are things that a lot of people will miss because there's so many moving parts right now. We're all talking about Syria. We're talking about tax reform, health care, the big issues. There's 1,000 small issues that have started to happen, and they're going to get worse, that do dramatically impact
some not so small, but not as big as Syria. One of them caused you to make, I think you'd agree, one of the most memorable speeches in history on the House floor. Here's Congressman Capuano not too long ago.
Just last week, I bought underwear on the internet. Why should you know what size I take?
What size do you take, Congressman?
None of your damn business.
Okay, so explain to people why you're even talking about this.
Because they had a bill on the floor to reverse an FCC regulation that would prohibit the internet service providers. Now, that's not the Googles, that's the Comcasts and Verizons and AT&T, the people that actually everything you do on the internet passes through them no matter what you're doing.
The most intimate of things, your personal
Everything.
stuff, your health stuff, whatever it is.
When you put your passwords, I have one of those password saving things. When you put your password, maybe Google doesn't see it because I'm not doing it on Google, but Comcast does.
And they have a right to sell it now.
Now they have a right to sell it. Now they all claim they're not going to, but of course none of us believe that because there's a lot of money to be made when they sell my underwear size to underwear companies.
If a Republican who voted for that was straight along party lines were to be sitting here and he took sodium pentothal, he or she, what would they say was the reason they did this?
I think two things. Number one is they didn't know about it. They weren't paying any attention. It was a real fastball. I mean, it was done during a lot of other things. And number two, I think they're going to regret this one because the average person understands it. Now, one of the reasons they understand it, I don't mean to be rude about it, was that speech, and it was because I was telling people things they understand. They don't understand ISPs, and I don't understand that stuff. They understand. Everybody I know buys things on the internet. Everybody does healthcare research. You know, when your kid gets sick, you Google in what is this disease, and why should anybody know that stuff? And everybody agrees with it.
I only have 30 seconds left. As a Democrat, do you go to work in the morning, except on the margins, hitting your head saying, because of the powerlessness? You were a mayor. You ran trade associations.
Yeah,
what does it do to your head?
It gets me going, to be perfectly honest. I mean, my battle is partially with my Democrats that I agree with to get them to see these things in a different light and to get off the academic, the esoteric arguments and get back down on the streets where Democrats always win. This internet privacy one is a classic example.
I would guess extra large. Is that right?
It depends on the week.
Nice to see you, Congressman.
Jim,
Congressman Michael Capuano.